Hey guys, and welcome to the 11th and final antimatter chemistry progression log for this save. Uh, I'm done. Yeah, I finished. Look, I got the Infinity Armor. Let's go. It's super fast, by the way, so not to drive myself insane, I'm gonna go ahead and take off the boots. All right. So first off, I'm gonna go over here and show you the Pyramid of Destiny. Um, and I'm gonna go ahead and quickly edit in the clip of me crafting it. Hey guys, and welcome to this little bit. We're actually going to be doing the crafting now. I've been sitting here for quite some time, and now we're gonna be doing the crafting now. All right, so we've got everything here ready to go. Uh, cool. Now I have to empty all these extra ones out. Oh man, this has been hours. You guys, I'll show more of that stuff later. But we are going to make. One, two, three, four. Nice. Okay. Now I need to grab the storage. We're gonna go. This is gonna. I have a special subnet for this, by the way. Uh. Okay, that's done, and now we use this to make it. And this should be. This should give us an infinite amount of. Here, we'll go ahead and put that in there. Close that back up. Uh, nice, nice. Okay, let's go ahead and make the... Alright, we'll go ahead and make more of these bad boys. We're gonna go ahead and pull this guy out as well. I'm gonna go ahead and add that in there. And then... The reason why I'm putting it in a subnet is I'm nervous if it might do something funky to the rest of the main system, so... I'm gonna go ahead and grab some more of these bad boys. Oh man, we're rolling in dough now. I'm gonna have to grab some more of these guys. And now we make the Infinity Armor. Let's go ahead and pin this real quick. Guys, this has been so long. All right, okay, I need probably right. Oh man, my inventory is very full. Here, we'll go ahead and dump that stuff in there. Probably gonna need a couple of these, so I'll just go ahead and craft a couple of those. Let's go ahead and dump some stuff back in there. I got too much antimatter. No. Okay, the final piece. All right. It's done. Let me go ahead and throw this armor in there because I don't need that anymore, do I? Let's go. It's done. I'm done. I have officially finished my second mod pack ever. This was Antimatter Chemistry, my first mod pack. Uh, my favorite mod pack, I should say. It's the mod pack I've definitely played the most. It's beat out. This playthrough has definitely beat out Sky Factory 3. I think this is the third or fourth time. I've only played Sky Factory 3 three times, and I've never completed it, but that's another thing in total. Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and take a look. It took me 282 hours to craft the Infinity Armor, and I couldn't craft the rest of the Infinity set, but my goal was the Infinity Armor, and it's done. Sonic speed. I'm so fast. Let's go. Let's see. I wonder why the wings aren't here. Do I have to turn particles on, maybe? No. Oh, there we go. Nice. All right. It's done. Okay, so, oof, that is fast. Uh, oh, I see you have to fly for it. The wings pop out. That's nice. That's cool. Okay. I will let future me, because it's currently the night before this video is going out. I've been grinding all day. It's finally done. The base isn't as completed as I would like to be, but uh, I'll hand you over to next me to talk about more of that stuff. But yeah, it's done. We're done. We did it. We did it. Holy shit, we did it. Okay. Okay. You're back now. Hello. It's future me. Thanks, past me. Um, cool. So yeah, you guys watched me craft it, and we're done. We finished. The biggest cost of everything was definitely the Nether Star Singularity. That was the last thing I had to wait for, and I was managed to supplement the DML income. I'll show that in a minute. Um, by actually it helped because you can craft Nether Stars. So I was just sitting here staring at this screen, waiting for Ludium to go above 6,400, and then I'd order another 100, and then I'd sit here for like another 10 minutes, and then order another 100. Uh, so it was, there was a lot of waiting involved. The base isn't 100% the where I would like it to be. I would say it's about 95%. There's some things like where I was experimenting with new styles of machine walls before discovering I just hate machine walls. I never really got around to knocking down the ones I'd already built though, so I just kind of like stopped building them. Um, there's a few places where I missed facades, uh, but yeah, the base is pretty. I'm pretty happy with the base. I love this base, and the final time was, as you guys saw, 282 hours of gameplay to finish Antimatter Chemistry. This is the first time in my mind that I've completed. You guys can't see the air quotes, but trust me, there's air quotes there. Completed Antimatter Chemistry. It's a Minecraft mod pack, so completion is entirely subjective, in my opinion. Whenever you're done with a pack, whenever you feel like you've completed it, is when you feel like you've completed it. But this is either the third or fourth time of playing Antimatter Chemistry. I forgot. And this is the first time I think I've officially completed it, rather than just like do everything that I felt like doing and just giving up. There are some things like there was one thing that I didn't do that I really wanted to do, and that was build a molten salt reactor from Nuclear Craft. Instead, I just have a bunch of fission reactors. I never really even got around to fusion. The problem with fusion is it's very fuel hungry, and making hydrogen fuel for like the better reactors is hard. You need a lot of electrolyzers, and they're very slow. So I just never really decided to do fusion. And for molten salt, they're very expensive, they're very large, and they're very complex. And whenever I needed to build a new reactor, was doing something else, discovered I needed more power, and went, I'll just throw down another fission reactor. And that's just how it happened eventually. So I never really got around to the molten salt reactor, and which I think is a little bit disappointing, but also acceptable. Like, it would have been cool, but also I had so much stuff to do, and it still took me 282 hours. And I totally could have done this faster, I'm sure, if I spent less time on aesthetics, but I'm very happy that I spent the time on the aesthetics. This base is my favorite tech base of all time, by far. It blows the Mechanical Mastery base out of the water. That base, I'm gonna be honest, kind of sucked a little bit. So I'm really happy with the way this base turned out. This wasn't the first palette. This is the third version. When I was in creative testing, originally the first palette had a lot of ceramic, but ceramic is pretty difficult to get because marl, you can't make it, at least in this version. I don't know if you can make it in more modern versions. So I couldn't get marl in the early games. Then I swapped to the blue slate you guys saw in the very first progression log. And then when I was doing some more building and creative for some further testing, it started to remind me of a sewer. So I totally changed the way the whole base was built. I changed the palette specifically. I replaced slate with limestone and tore out the roof. And that was pretty nice. And, I love this base. This base is great. Alright. So I guess we'll go ahead and get started. There's not too many things to show you that are new from last one, because I've put like, I forget, I think it was like 40 hours, 20 hours-ish, I don't know, it was quite a lot, and most of it was just doing the same thing over and over and over again. The major new things are over here. Well, I already showed you the compressor area, but I guess we can go over more of that. I doubled the length of the neutronium compressors because I needed more. Um, and I built. You need mineral salts for one of the singularities, and I was like, oh man, a million, because I rounded up, because I was like, okay, we'll shoot for needing 50 singularities. When in reality, in this version of the pack, I need 45. In modern versions, you need 44. That's because you need 44 to make the creative storage cell. And I need one more version so you can whitelist it in the cell workbench. In the modern versions of the pack, you don't need an item to whitelist. You can whitelist straight from JEI, so you only need 44. So I'm like, oh man, I need a lot. So I was gonna build a bunch of these setups. The half of this one isn't even like inputting stuff to the system, so I have 1.5 of these, and this was like more than I needed. This was way more than I needed. So I didn't need to build this gigantic room for it. So I just kind of like went, oh yeah, big number, let's build big, and I didn't really stop to think about how much I actually needed. And I'm very happy I didn't build all those setups. One, because it was a pain in the ass to build these things, and two, you can look at my FPS. My FPS hates this area. Here, I'll turn around, and my FPS like doubles. All right. And one thing I do want to notice, the performance for this base has been stellar. Like, I finished the pack with a mean tick time of 11.6. Like, that's great. Like, I'm very happy about that, because the last save that I checked quite a while ago, while auto-crafting stuff, had 4 TPS. So, yeah, that was not good. So this base is much, much, much more efficient. And that's because a lot of stuff is passive using interfaces and using XNet rather than import buses and stuff. So that's nice. All right, I'm going to go ahead and do, I guess, a quick walkthrough of some stuff. Oh, over here I kind of want to talk about the machine walls things. So when I was doing the machine walls, part of the problem is you can't see the machines in them. So I started doing like this style, where, I kind of like cut out a chunk. And then I discovered, I was like, well, why even do that? I don't even really like machine walls. So I just kind of like stopped building them. And I didn't bother to tear down the old ones. Or any of like, because there's this style, and then there's over here, there's this style using smooth, and then the smaller ones, rather than building the scaffolding from right here, I was doing it from inside the strip. When I was building machine walls, I liked the new style better, but I also just don't like machine walls, so I just stopped building them and never tore down the old ones. Let's see, what else is there to mention? I guess, like I said, there really wasn't that much new stuff. I guess I can go show DML, because DML does have some improvements. Because I needed so many nether stars, 90,000 or so, actually exactly 90,000, I needed a lot of wither data models. This base pulls about 360,000 RF per tick while it's operating. Right now everything's slowly turning off because I'm not making singularities anymore. And half of that power draw is just the DML stuff. About 104, a little less than half actually. DML pulls about 140,000 RF per tick, and that was just for mostly for a vast majority of this data bank. This simulation bank here is just withers for nether stars. It was a pain in the ass, and there was a lot of wither grinding going on. Let's see, what's some other stuff that I want to mention? I mean, I guess I can just go into the rambling section now. Like, there really wasn't that much new stuff to show. I'm pretty happy with the way the base turned out. There were some original changes. There's some changes from like the original style that when I first started this new palette, like when it was, I had like the crop farm, the mob farm, and that was deep storage, and that was pretty much it. Well, because you can see I used to have like lights in the walls. That stopped very quickly. It ended right here. And then eventually I just moved on to just glowstone in the floor, because the building methodology when I was building new hallways was dig up the trench, turn around, and then use the building gadget to like just build the walls and stuff. And because I dig the trench and count out the glowstone, because it's glowstone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'd count that out on the trench all the way down. And I didn't really want to do that in the walls, so I just kind of didn't do that. So that's something I want to keep in mind when for the next base is that you want to minimize how often you are not using building gadgets. At least for me, like there was no need to count in the walls because anything that needed to be because all the spacing was done, here. And the other problem is like for things like this, like you can't put a glowstone here. Oh, I guess you could if you really wanted to, but I don't really wanted to. I didn't want to break up skystone. Skystone should have been continuous, so I was putting glowstones here, so they were breaking the count. So it's like, why even bother? So the one thing in this space that was counted that was never ever changed was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like hallways are always like this. They are always in blocks of 6 like that. It's because there's enough room for hallways to fit here, so you don't have to worry about breaking up the spacing. Um, yeah, so I like this. This was good. I'll definitely take this style of building. Again, like long straight lines, standardized hallways. Standardize your hallways. That's the biggest tip I can give to anyone else who, if you are looking for tips on how to build a good base, standardize your pathways. Plan out those first, and then build stuff next to your pathways. That was what worked best for me, and I feel like that would probably work pretty well for anyone else. Um, all right. I'm going to go ahead and just turn off the HUD here for a little bit and just kind of like walk around the base so you guys can get a kind of a sense of scale, I think, from the ground level. I'll do a flyover in a little bit, but we've got the mob farm here. Something I do want to mention was I think I used a lot of subnets in places where I probably didn't need to use subnets, or I used them improperly or not as well as they could have been. I feel like subnets storage on subnets because like I said, in the originally when I was doing the A2 architecture, I didn't want to do dissolving on mainnet. I wanted to do dissolving on subnets and send all those elements back to the mainnet. But if I'd done that, I feel like I should have dissolved all the mob drops. Like I feel like the best option here would have been to dissolve everything that could have been dissolved and then throw away everything else. So armor, graves dust, which I hate. You can't use it for anything in this version. You might be able to use it in modern versions, but it's just like a useless item. So this would have been I should have been voiding this. Everything else should have been dissolved, and then all the elements dumped to mainnet. Well, except ender pearls. Some stuff would have been stored on mainnet, but I think it would have been good for most things to be dissolved. Because the crop farm over here this didn't need to have storage on mainnet or on subnet. All the stuff could have been stored on mainnet. That's my point. Is I stored too many things on subnets from passive systems, I think, and it left my main drives cluttered. Because stuff couldn't go back to the subnets, it was one way only. So if I pulled stuff out of the passive, the subnets, and they were left in the drive, and some things weren't used outside of the subnet, or they weren't used very often. Like rotten flesh, it really isn't used for anything. It's used to make protein for slime balls, and that's about it. So, like when there was rotten flesh on the main drive, it really wasn't used very often. However, I do want to say the one exception to my gripes about the subnet is the Stoneworks room. I feel like this subnet was great. Virtually everything that's stored on this subnet is used on this subnet and isn't used anywhere else or isn't needed, or like I'm not pulling it out of the system. Like molten allogementum is being used for stuff, this is being used for stuff, this is being used for stuff, but it's being used in other passive processes, and you don't pick it up from anywhere, and it's not very often that you pull it out of mainnet, and it's fine if you pull it out of mainnet because it's continually being consumed. But things like rotten flesh weren't, for example. Obsidian was like the one outlier of this area because I would get obsidian from like mining and just clearing out obsidian in the deep dark or whatever. But in the end, it was fine. I never really used that much obsidian anyway, and that was also sort of passively consumed. Let's see what other. DML would have been a subnet over here, but when I was setting this up as a subnet, I couldn't figure out the problem I was having where I was interfacing two subnets and trying to pull from the main system interface through the subnet storage bus to a subnet interface that was going to move items here, specifically over here. I was trying to pull iron and gold and lapis from mainnet, and I couldn't figure out why the interface wasn't working. And how I fixed it was I just set the priority to 1000, and it just worked. I don't know why it didn't work. I don't know why that makes it work, but it does. So yeah. So that was after I figured that out after I'd made this on mainnet, and I wasn't gonna go back and set this to subnet. I do wish I had set less things on subnets, but I think the subnet experience was good, and it wasn't too bad. Um, I didn't like how I set up white antimatter here. Because I was opening up crates here, I needed white antimatter storage in the subnet. But I was also thinking like, well, what if I need white antimatter for something in the rest of the base? I don't want it to eat everything. But part of the problem is I have a bunch of white antimatter here, and that wasn't being used in the subnet because it's one way. The subnet wasn't pulling white antimatter from mainnet. Mainnet was reading white antimatter from here, and I think that was an architecture mistake. The other thing is, this room did not need to be this large. It's totally barren. Like, the reason why there's a bunch of black hole units over here is because I set them here for decorative purposes, so it wouldn't look so empty. And this is the only place I did this in the whole base. Because I did this once, and then had to go do something else, and then was working on singularities the whole time, and then finished, and then never came back and did it again. So, because you only need one crate opener, and you didn't need that many dissolvers, and I never got around to opening up red crates, because, well, it had some useful items in it, and never had anything that I was really hurting for, that I couldn't get from white crates, and dimensional crates didn't need to be passively opened. Even though I had planned for that originally, but it just ended up not needing to be passively opened, because I didn't use that many RF Tools Dimlet stuff. I manually opened probably like, I don't know, like 500, and that was enough. But man, it's a little bit bittersweet that I'm done with this base now, because like I said, this is 282. It took me 282 hours to finish this pack. That is a lot of time. I have been playing this pack for about 2/3 to about 60% of my second to last semester in college, and whatever pack I play next, which will be ATM9, I'll discuss that in a little bit. Well, I'll be playing that pack is going to be quite a lengthy one, I think, because there's going to be Greg Tech in it, and I'm going to be messing around with Greg Tech. So ATM9 will probably be the pack that I play when I finish college. And so, like, being able to, like, this was a significant amount of time. And it's kind of interesting to, like, look back and think about, oh, yeah, I was doing that. And, at school when I was building this, or, things like that. Like, man. Here's the reactors room over here. Oh yeah, I added some more batteries and built this little nice area here for the batteries. Like I said, I kind of wish I got around to a molten salt reactor, but I just never got around to it. That's just like, sometimes that stuff happens. Like, what I've discovered is sometimes you have to go the extra distance. Like, when we're talking about, here, I'll go ahead and show the fusion fission yard. So, like, I went the extra distance here. I'm going to walk over there just so you guys can get a sense of just how freaking large this base is. I'm pretty sure this is the right direction. Yeah, it is. I guess we'll get there in the end, and I'll talk about that later. Some deep storage units here. Again, not deep storage units, black hole units. They used to be called deep storage units, but now they're called black hole units. Because they were called deep storage units in Mine Factory Reloaded, and Industrial Foregoing they're called black hole units. They're the same mod, but it's like two basically. These were like the greatest sync of machine frames in the early game, and that's actually why I set up automation in the stoneworks for scandium and indium. Was specifically for machine frames for black hole units. Just some stuff over here, like random things, blocks and stuff. Here's the slate. I don't need that. This is the slate I made for the original, well, the second palette that I built here, and then I never made any more ever again because it sucks, and I hated it because it looked like a sewer. Oh yeah, we've got lots of experience buckets here now because the mob farm produces a little bit of that now. Passive chemicals over here. Again, I rebuilt this area with the new machine wall style, and I like it. I like this better than the old style, but the problem is the small bricks doesn't match with the drawers anymore, which is a little bit annoying, but I can't go back and swap all the drawers out. It's just not practical. I wish in the early game I had experimented a little bit more with different styles of machine walls, so I could have built nicer ones, like the ones I just showed you. But, hindsight's 20/20. Applied Energistics room over here. This was another room that didn't need to be this large. I thought there was going to be a lot more passive systems here. Um, like I was going to do Fluix on passive and pure Fluix on passive and like various devices like, interfaces and terminals and cables on passive. And I never really needed to do those things on passive. Like doing them on demand was more than enough. And once I set up Fluix on demand, it was totally okay. It never really mattered anymore. Um, and I didn't ever even did pure Fluix on demand or on passive. I just every now and then would order like 4,000 or something, 4,000 seeds, because the way this works is the computer can autocraft seeds, and there's an export bus in here that just dumps the seeds into the crystal growth chamber, and that just goes to not the chests, the drawers. So all I needed to do was order like 4,000 seeds, and then I was good for like another 70 or 80 hours of gameplay. I just never really used that many. Yeah, so the only thing that was on passive here were these processors, and this thing got used for various different miscellaneous things throughout the run. Originally, it was used as bootleg ore processing, and then I used it for my Scuffed Applied Energistics guide, and now it was used for pumping like molten thorium and molten uranium out of those dimensions. That's how I got so many of those ingots. And by the way, those reactors I showed you, they went through 100,000 ingots in like 20 or 30 hours of gameplay. Like it's a crazy high burn rate. Here, I'll go ahead and show you. Look at that. And yeah, so after I finished pumping the molten uranium, I had like a 380-ish thousand at the beginning of the week or so, and now I've blasted through 130,000 ingots. It's it's a lot. It burns a lot of uranium. Without the dimlet dimensions, I don't know how I'd be able to fuel those reactors. If I'm being honest, they just go through so much. That might be why maybe like molten salt reactors that would have been a good point for them. I think they're more efficient on fuel, but I don't know. Here's the thermal area where I also do passive crafting and stuff. Originally, I was using the ARF Tools Crafters because they have more recipes, they're faster, they offer a lot of very useful things, like being able to, like some things, I didn't use any, like being able to return items back to the import buffer. I didn't really need that in this one. It was helpful in Mechanical Mastery, but it didn't end up being used here. And I got really sick of spending like 10 minutes filtering these damn things. So eventually I just moved to sequential fabricators with pattern validation ones, and that automatically does the filtering for you. Yeah, it's large buffers, but I was like, whatever, I don't care, it's passive. And they are slower than they are of Tools Crafters, but again, passive system, so who cares? It doesn't need to be fast, it just needs to work. Magma crucibles for tectonic pyrotheum, erothium, and cryotheum. I forget what I used the cryotheum for. Something, I'm sure. Otherwise, I wouldn't have set it up. Alloys over here. I hate the way how I did alloys, and this is a problem. I didn't limit items. How I did it was I would seed, in quotes, the alloy smelter with the required items, and then turn on the export thing, and it would only be able to export to fill up that item. So this only works as long as I never run out of a material. And as you can see, I keep running out of like powder, pulverized obsidian. So that's a little bit annoying. So this should have been done with how I did fusion reactors, where I had one channel for one item and a second channel for the other item, so I could do item limiting. But this was one of the first XNet setups I did, so I wasn't nearly as skilled as I am now. Like this pack has really given me, given me a chance to learn XNet in a way that I had no idea what I was doing before. And now my XNet skills are much, much better because virtually every setup in the space uses XNet. There's like probably 10 or 50, there's probably like less than 10 that don't. And that's usually things that have to move fluids around because XNet doesn't really move fluids very well. This one does use XNet for items, but not for fluids. Another door here. This one does use XNet because it's putting items to fluids, but the fluids are done with Applied Energistics. And we have smelting over here, and then again, this is all XNet. So XNet, like again, how I mentioned before, how this base is, very efficient, and it's because of XNet. Because I use XNet and interfaces instead of doing things on demand, like like I said earlier, like 4 TPS on my earlier saves, because everything was on demand and using, refined storage, which is much laggier than applied energistics, and I was doing, bad methods with lots of importers and exporters and stuff. So by using lots of interfaces, I saved myself a ton of performance, and I definitely recommend people trying that out. We have nuclear fuel processing over here. Here's where I have uranium and thorium. I use the isotope separators, to make the things that I need. This thing right here just disintegrates because when you separate thorium, one of the element you get tiny piles of an element that you don't need. 230, it's just completely useless. So the only thing you can do with it is either dissolve it into thorium moles from alchemistry, or what I did was combine it into basically I turned it into lead basically using decay hasteners. Over here is where we recycle spent fuels. This is where I got plutonium, neptunium, and I got to recycle various elements of uranium back into the processing. Here I made liquid helium because I needed that for some of the HEU-235 oxide reactors required helium coolers. A lot of helium coolers, I should say, 103 off the top of my head from what I remember. So I had to set this up. And now we're back into the fusion fission yards over here. I already took a clip of this earlier, like last night, because a lot of the stuff was active. So I'm just going to go ahead and edit that in now. Uh, Glad you guys are back. Now you're back to now me. Alright, we're going to go this way now. Over here, I think we are, yep, we are over here by the compressor now, but this is RF tools. I finally moved the portals over here. Like I said, this drawer wall was much larger than it needed to be. I'm happy though. What I did is you can partition cells. Like here's what I did. So all of my dimlets, like actual like terrain dimlets, for example, like these things are in this drive, and you can do that by using this cell workbench. So you use a fuzzy card, and then you have each type. So a liquid dimlet, a material dimlet, a terrain dimlet. And then with the fuzzy card, it will store all terrain dimlets, all liquid dimlets. So this allowed me to keep dimlets away from the main system, and this was actually a good idea for a subnet. Because this can actually see the main system. It can see all the items, so if I need to craft stuff on it, and it can also see the dimlets. And I didn't want the main system to get clogged up with that, because also the dimlet parts as well are also limited to this subnet here. Teleporters and portals. All right, next is the NC chemical room. I don't think I've shown this yet. I might have mentioned this before through the machine wall style, but here's the NC chemical room. This does the calcium sulfate line because I have the outdated version of the pack, and in this version of the pack you can't make calcium sulfate using chemical combiners. You can only do it through the NC chemical line. So this is the whole NC chemical line. I also make down here, well, so we have electrolyzers here, fluid enrichers here, chemical reactors here, and melters up here. I also make molten allogentum because you can process this stuff to silver and aluminum. Make molten glass here so I can make clear glass because I obviously use a lot of that stuff. And I got sick of manually feeding my tinker's smelter, all that stuff. This machine wall over here solidifies ingot formers, things like when I pumped molten thorium or molten uranium. It also makes molten silver, molten aluminum, and I get, like I said, the clear glass. Okay, we're going to go ahead and go back to the control room through the viaducts. I really love the viaduct network in this pack. I really love the viaducts. It's obviously less practical than the teleporters I had, but I didn't have to make like a centralized teleport hub for that. And you don't get to play with viaducts very often because it's not in newer versions of Minecraft. It got dropped from Thermal Dynamics. Thermal Expansion got split up into a bunch of sub-mods at some point. And Thermal Dynamics has viaducts in this version. In later versions, more modern versions of Minecraft, you don't get the viaducts anymore. So I'm happy I got a chance to play with them again because they're fun. I guess we'll go ahead and take a look. Let's see, that's the reactors, right? Yeah, okay, that means we have to go this way. This base is a little bit of a maze, I'm not going to lie. Which is another reason why I really like the viaduct network, is I don't have to remember, because actually, at a certain point when I was playing, I wasn't even looking at the base anymore, I was just following the minimap, and I got kind of tired of that. So I set up the viaduct network, so I don't have to look at the base, so I don't have to look at a minimap, and I can focus on the base. Ore processing here, you can see, so the lasers give oil sands and destabilized redstone, and I don't need those things, and I don't want to process them, and voiding them was, I could void them, and it would have been, pretty easy, probably, it would have been very easy, storage buses or whatever, but instead I'm like, well, I have a bunch of 64K drive, I have like 14, for this ore processing subnet, so it's like, I don't care, I'm just going to let them sit in the drives so I can go do something else. Oh, I remember. I did want to talk about how sometimes you do have to go the extra margin for that base, especially like with the fusion. I'm actually gonna go ahead and show the fusion yard anyway, even though you guys have already seen that clip, because I do want to talk a little bit more about that stuff. Like when I was building the fusion fission yard, I decided to go the extra mile. I felt like it. I wanted to make it look really cool, and because of that, even though I've spent it's probably one of the areas I've spent the most amount of time in the base. Because I've spent hours and hours wiring various fusion and fission reactors in for all the elements that I need. And despite, I love this area of the base, because I went hard on it. I went crazy with it. I didn't need this huge pathway here. I definitely didn't need this. But when I built the second one, I'm like, man, it would be really cool if I had like a skyway between both yards. Because when I was building the first one, I thought that I might have second ones, and then for a while I didn't know if I was gonna have any more, and then I did build the second one, and I was kind of like having an idea in my head where all the different overlooks would have their own dedicated viaduct line. That didn't happen just because it's kind of impractical to run more viaducts, and there's only two. but I did want them to be connected to each other. So, I was in the middle of something, and I was wiring fusion reactors, and I kept looking at this area, and I really wanted a skyway here. And then I'd go, nah, I really gotta do these fusion reactors. And then eventually I just went, you know what? Fuck it. We're doing the skyway. So I did the skyway. And sometimes you really do have to go the extra, if you do go the extra mile, you'll love your base. You'll love it. Because I love just walking around this area. Just, I love the scale of it. I love how it all looks. I love all the lights. I love all the panels here. It's just cool, And I'm very glad I did this. And so sometimes you do have to go the extra mile. And then sometimes you don't. Either you can't, or you're focusing on something, or you really have to get something done because it might be time sensitive for whatever reason. So sometimes you can't go the extra mile. But if you can, if you have the resources, if nothing's pressing, if you feel like you can, whatever you're looking at is whatever you're working on right now can be left for later, then yeah. Especially because, I was doing the same thing 20 times. I'm like, I need a break from this. And that's another good excuse. Is you just want a break from something, so I'm going to make something else super nice. And that really helped. The overlook, again, totally unnecessary. This could have just been, huge flat boxes, and it would have worked exactly the same way. It would have changed nothing about the way this functioned. But you know what? I love it. I love it. And I'm so glad I went the extra mile for this. So, you know what? I recommend, if you can, go the extra mile. I love this place. Even though I've spent 40 hours in the Fusion Fishing Yard area, I still love it. Oh, one thing I want to note, I don't know if I've noted that already. I have no wireless applied energistics in this base. 282 hours and no wireless applied energistics. I do, however, have 47 bajillion terminals everywhere. So that's cool. I really like the novelty of that, actually. Oh. I really enjoyed the novelty of not having wireless and running to terminals everywhere. It was cool to me. So I did that. And there's no infinity card here, so if I wanted to do wireless, the reason why there's a double here is because in order to stay in line with that one. Probably should have removed that joint. Anyway, this is the compressors, by the way. Here we go. And the Pyramid of Destiny. I still have I think I still have auto crafting I have to show, so we're gonna go back over there. Man, I'm gonna love this base. I'm gonna miss this base, at least for a little while. Oh, by the way, here's the original area where this was. Let's see, where was this was the original. This was where the Atom portal was originally. This is where the Deep Dark portal was originally. The other portal was here. This is where I had a netherwort farm for a while. The original sugarcane farm, the original beet farm. I never tore it out. Here's the original furnaces and stuff too. I never removed them. I only removed what was in the way. I thought it was kind of cool to leave them behind, so you can come back and take a look at how far we've come, So here's the original, power system that I was making, just feeding hexane and coal and stuff. I do want to know about this this setup here, this auto crafting setup. This makes soot-covered redstone, and how soot-covered redstone is made is by crushing a redstone against a block of coal with left click, and part of the problem is these mechanical users would break the coal blocks over time. And by the time I figured out that was causing the setup to fail, because before I was just where did the coal blocks go? I didn't understand where it was going, because her moment, I guess. But by the time I figured out that they were breaking the coal blocks, with if I auto-crafted very large batches of soot-covered redstone, they would eventually break the coal block, and so I had to manually feed them smaller batches of redstone to turn into soot-covered redstone. So that was annoying, and by the time I figured out what the problem was, I only needed a couple more singularities, so I was just whatever, I don't really need that much more anyway. I made the last 400, I sat here and monitored it for 5 minutes, and then just never fixed it. To fix it, you'd need block placers, I think, or maybe set the mechanical users to only work on pulses, so they stop left-clicking. I'm not sure which one have worked. Block placers would have worked for sure. Maybe pulsing would have worked. But my on-demand crafting for this save is the smallest I've ever had on-demand auto crafting in any tech pack that I've played significant amounts of time in. And because like 90% of my auto crafting, my on-demand auto crafting, is just crafting recipes through molecular assemblers. Like I had smelters, I had grinders, manufacturers, the same thing. These things was to make charged surge quartz for fluix. I had dissolvers, chemical combiners. These were used the most. Out of all of the auto crafting besides regular crafting recipes, these were used the most. We have some plates and gears as well for some other stuff. And then over here, which I never really made a viaduct thing to because I never come over here. I set it up and then just kind of left. It's even too large for what it is. This was another auto crafting setup room. I have alchemical fusion, alchemical fission, and 2 draconic evolution stuff. I don't like draconic evolution. It really annoys me. So I didn't like. I only ever crafted exactly what I needed. I actually crafted 2 more awakened cores. I was gonna make another extreme crafting bench and then just didn't. So I made 2 more awakened cores and I actually needed it. Oh no. So I don't really like draconic evolution. So I spent more time automating it than I really needed. But once it was automated, I never touched it ever again. So I automated it because I hated touching it. Because I hated draconic evolution, and then I never went back. So I didn't have to do it again. I hate the fusion crafting setup. I probably only have one more thing to show you, I think. And then I think that'll probably be it. This is getting kind of long. So I'll mention what I'll be doing next. Alright, this is the miscellaneous setup room. I set up the enchanting table here so I can get the capturing enchantment, so I can make the feral ghoul spawner, which ended up, it was definitely useful. It was definitely useful because I have so much carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur from all the rotten flesh that comes from it. I have a ton of white crate loot, which also gave me more elements, which is also super nice. The uranium and thorium ingots, I don't know how useful those were because I was just pumping the molten versions and then solidifying it. And it was actually super nice because I was solidifying into the oxide version of the ingot. So I didn't even need to like dump millions of buckets of oxygen into them to get the fuel to work. Because that would have been very, very, very expensive in terms of oxygen. And because my whole liquid oxygen supply, well, nuclear craft oxygen, only comes from those 5 atomizers I set up like 200 hours ago. And that's it. I never set up any more. But I never really needed that much. So like the largest use of oxygen in the base is making alumina. You do something with allogementum, molten allogementum, and oxygen, and that gives you alumina and silver, and then you electrolyze. So it takes 3 buckets to do that. And here I can actually just show you the frickin' recipes actually instead of just describing it to you. Why show, not tell? Chemical reactor. Chemical reactor molten allogementum with 3 buckets of oxygen, and it gives you molten elementum and silver, and the allogementum is just recycled back into the oxygen through an electrolyzer. So you never really this oxygen is never consumed. So there's not really that much oxygen consumption going on in the base, and I'm very glad that those molten uranium and molten thorium solidify into the oxide versions. I don't know why, but they do, and I'm happy about it. So the uranium and thorium drops from the feral ghouls I don't think really was too helpful, but it was, more resources, so I'm never going to turn that down. This was some brewing stands so I can make the hell shelves, and these are helium collectors. I needed them for the liquid helium stuff, so I also make the helium you need for the singularities as well. Because the other option was just to make it in a fusion plant, and I needed this stuff from nuclear craft anyway for the coolers. So, but I didn't know where to put these things. Like, where do I put them? So I put them here, and it's fine. This is the room for it. Just random stuff that doesn't need a full room on its own or doesn't go in any other specific room. Actually, I think I haven't shown this area yet. Oh yeah, mass dissolving room. I never finished all the deco work here. But this dissolves stuff for like raw elements like arsenic to arsenic, beryllium for beryllium, etc., etc. Stuff like that. wither skulls for Mendelevium. Oh, by the way, over here for so the emerald blocks dissolve into more than just vanadium. It's also like chromium and beryl. But by the time I was setting this up, I didn't need any of those things. And also, it would have drastically slowed down how fast it would have dissolved. Because over here with the wither skulls, is it has to go through all of the hydroperoxite. And that slows down how fast it makes Mendelevium. And I didn't need those elements anyway, so I just voided a bunch of the stuff with bins. And I did the same thing over here with nether warts for selenium and germanium. You also get cellulose, and I didn't care about the cellulose, so I just avoided that stuff as well. This makes the plutonium and neptunium. I make it from because it comes from the fuels, and the fuels are oxide versions. The oxide, here I can show you. The oxide does not dissolve into the moles, so you have to smelt it into the just the original plutonium isotope for the plutonium mole. I guess not, yeah, plutonium mole. So that's why there's smelters here. One for neptunium and one for plutonium. Americium, I was thinking about making it in a reactor, but then you have to make another plutonium fuel type, so I just made that in a fusion plant. I have platinum and iridium here. Platinum you need for a singularity, but iridium, where is iridium? It's over here somewhere. Anyway, it's in here somewhere. Iridium was used to... you don't need iridium for singularities, but I did make iridium so you can split that into yttrium and strontium. I didn't need the strontium byproduct, but I did need the yttrium for the singularity. So that was how I got yttrium. And I got iridium and platinum. They don't spawn as ores normally. The only way to get those ores is through laser drills, and that's why I have a fuckload of these things. It is 16 slots. So it's 6 by 3. So it's actually, my bad, 18 times 8, which is 80 plus 200 no, 144, something like that. I don't know. Someone check my math. So these are all like white, light blue lenses and white lenses to help give the best chance for iridium and platinum ore. I still got a lot more iridium than platinum. I guess platinum is just rare drop, even though I have more light blue lens stacks than I do white lens stacks. This was very expensive though in terms of pink slime. This was around the 7,000 mark. Originally I had a pink slime spawner, but I did a whoopsie. And I accidentally had the pink slime spawner and the feral goo spawner on for about 4 seconds, and it lagged my game out for a good 15 to 20. And I had to switch the game mode to peaceful, and then I had to break the spawner, and I think I broke it with the wrong pickaxe, and it was gone, and it's whatever. So when I needed more pink slime after that debacle, I just manually farmed it with mob duplicator. I was too scared to put the spawner back. To make another spawner, because I have like a bunch of spawn eggs. Avarita room, I doubled the number of neutronium collectors as I had last time from the first setup. I didn't feel like waiting. And yes, they do render 3 blocks. The singularities do as well. Alright, I think that's it for this room. And then we could talk about the mineral salts room over here. And then I'm going to talk about what's next, and then we'll go. Right, so this was the mineral salts room, because you need a bunch of mineral salts for the singularities. It's 20,000 per singularity, and I needed 45 in this version. I don't know if I've mentioned that before. In newer versions, so how the creative cell works is you have to partition the drive for what you want an infinite amount of. And in newer versions, you can partition by pulling straight from JEI, but in this version of the pack, you can't. So I needed 45 singularities. In the modern versions, you only need 44. So I needed... slightly more. I needed a lot of the number I rounded to was 1,000,000 because I did the calculations for 50 singularities because the math was easier. So I'm like, I'm gonna need a bunch of these things, and no, no, you don't. I needed this one, and then half of this one is running. I forgot to even put retrievers on half of this thing. And this was way more than I needed. Like one of these stacks would have been more than enough. And obviously I built enough for a lot more. Yeah. Also, I'm glad I didn't because My FPS hates this section of the base. I think it's because of all the crammed in tile entities and stuff. You've got all these evaporating dishes, and this is a deep hole, all the way down to bedrock, and then all the way up. So I don't know how tall it is, but it's a lot. It's a lot. So my FPS hates this base, and I bet if I built more, I'd have like 3 FPS looking at this portion of the base. So I'm glad that I didn't do that. Alright, well, that's all the stuff I have to show, I think. So now we're going to do a quick flyover, and I'm going to go ahead and crank the render distance up so you guys can take a look and see the whole base in one. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pause it while it renders. So in terms of what's up next, that'll be all the mods 9. I don't know when we'll see a progress log for that. I would not expect the upcoming week because I imagine my job I'll actually get access soon. And then I'll start working and stuff, so I'll have less time to play. It'll be a new pack. Like, I didn't have a progress log for Antimatter Chemistry for the first 2 weeks of gameplay. First week and a half, maybe 2 weeks. Because there wasn't anything to show. It was like when you guys saw the clip in the first one. There wasn't anything there. Yeah. So I don't know when we'll see one. Maybe next week. I wouldn't expect it one. But all the mods 9. By the way, here's the full base. 282 hours of gameplay to complete Antimatter Chemistry. Oh, let me put the boots on. There we go. Here we go. Here, right there. Right? 282 hours, guys. Whew. A lot of time. That's a lot of time. So, what's next is all the mods 9. And what's different, that's actually going to be very different from the last 2, is my brother really wants to play with me, so we're going to be renting a server, so my brother will be there, and we open it up to a bunch of our friends, so some of our friends will be there, so it's going to be a multiplayer game, and that'll be fun. I've never played, well, that's not true. I played Vault Hunters 3 with my brother, but that wasn't a tech one, and it was just us 2. So it'll be fun to play tech modded with other people. It's going to be good. I'm very, very excited, and I'm planning to open up the server right now on Monday, though I might open it up today later, or maybe tomorrow, as soon as I get that itch, because last night I'd finished, and it's like, okay guys, good night, see you guys later. Oh man, I want to play more games. Oh no, I'll go play Minecraft. Oh wait, I'm done. So I had to go play something else instead. That's just fine, but I want to play more Minecraft, so we'll see. I'm planning on taking a break for the rest of the day from today and maybe tomorrow. We'll have to see again. So all the mods 9 will be next, and I imagine I will put at least this amount of time into it. If I put less than 400 hours into it, honestly, I'll be surprised. Because my goal for ATM 9 at the moment is the Greg Star. And, Greg Tech is the grind pack, right? It's the grindy tech mod. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know if I'll make the Greg Star. I don't know whether because Greg Tech is the challenge tech. It's the challenge. So I'm gonna give that a go. Maybe we'll complete it. Maybe we won't. But we'll have fun either way, right? Well, that's it from me for Antimatter, and as well actually it for Antimatter Chemistry. This has been one hell of an adventure. I'm glad some of you guys decided to share it with me. Some of you guys keep coming back for video after video, and this one's going to be very long as well. So yeah, like I said, maybe I'll see you next week, maybe I won't, but thank you for watching, and see you when I see you.